to you, bucko.
I'm talking to you, bucko.
Stoicism is making you gay. Just kidding, but it's actually ruining your life. It's ruining your life because it's making you complacent.
This is my lot in life. Girls just don't like me. I was born to be alone. I must trade shitcoins alone in my room and feel increasingly guilty about masturbating every night.
No, this is all wrong. It's not how it's supposed to be. But
I just need to lock in.
Says the guy who proceeds to not lock in and play his Tile Lock Skilder Ultimate Iron Man RuneScape account for 12 hours a day. Feelings don't get in your way. Emotions don't get in your way. You're not Marcus Aurelius. You're just a fucked up guy. But I'm here to save you, because not only will I go through the entire history of Stoicism, not only will I tell you all of its flaws, but hopefully I'll also give you some solutions to what actually ails you. Because Stoicism kind of fucking sucks, actually. I'm Archad. I love you. And if you subscribe to me, I'll love you even more.
Part 1. The History of Stoicism.
As it stands, Stoicism is a 2,000-year-old philosophy with a following that rivals Western religion. 16,000 copies of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations were sold in 2013. In 2019, that number rises to 100,000. Sales of Seneca's Letters from a Stoic rose 356% between 2019 and 2020. Isn't that funny? The year we were all forced to be alone, we found a book that made us cope with being alone and made it seem like being alone was actually pretty dope. Since the time of Marcus Aurelius, the former emperor of Rome in the 2nd century AD, the philosophy's most pertinent and applicable quips have been distilled into our modern understanding, sometimes referred to as modern Stoicism, the Stoicism that lines the business section bookshelves of every mall bookstore and every young Sigma's For You page. However, as important as it is to understand the philosophy, it's equally as important to understand the men who created it and the circumstances from which the philosophy was born. A much harsher world where death was around every corner, and it was much more vital to never grow attached to carnal pleasures, desires, or the self, for everything could be ripped away at any moment. Our journey through the development of Stoicism begins with Zeno of Citium in 1336 BC on the beautiful southern sunny coast of Cyprus. As a young man, Zeno took up the family trade and became a rather wealthy merchant, sailing all around the Mediterranean. However, his brief career as a merchant came to a sudden end at the age of 22, after his ship sank off the coast of Athens along with all of his belongings. Zeno was now alone in a foreign land with absolutely nothing to his name. It is here in Athens he stumbles across a book from one of Socrates' pupils, and his life as a student of philosophy would now begin. With an insatiable thirst for knowledge, Zeno would study under the philosopher Crates of Thebes, who himself was a student of Diogenes. Diogenes the barrel gooner would coax Crates, who was a rather wealthy man, to give up all of his material belongings and live in the streets, question everything, and break every social norm.
Escape the Matrix. Wipe your ass with your hand.
Escape the Matrix. Wipe your ass with your hand.
It's the instantiation of the Matrix as such. Wiping your ass with your hand is freedom.
Zeno then began teaching his philosophy to eager listeners in public lectures at the Stoa of Poikile. I did not learn how to pronounce any of the names in this video, and I refuse to. Originally known as Zenoism, the philosophy's name would change to represent the area in which it was taught, the Stoa, a covered plaza for public use in the Agora in Athens. Stoicism's core tenet was to live in accordance with the universe and reason. It was a direct response to Epicureanism, which taught that human pleasure and feeling good was the highest purpose in life.
What's up, art chatters? What I just did there was a bit of dramatic storytelling for the purpose of this video. I know Epicureanism is a lot more complicated than that, and I also know Stoicism was also a response to cynicism. But if I had to explain everything, this video would be longer than time itself. So with that in mind, let's get back to the video.
After his death, Zeno was succeeded by Cleanthes, who not only built on the ideas of Zeno, but also developed the logic and the physics side of the philosophy. The Stoicism that me and you are familiar with, the shit that fucking floods your YouTube algorithm, is just the ethics of Stoicism. But at the time Stoicism was developed, very little was known about the universe. The philosophy was not only concerned with developing theories of human behavior and ethics, but also theories of science, biology, and physics. This was a time when so little was known about the world, you could learn everything and then start making insane lateral connections about how the world worked. You wrote it down, everyone believed you, and people would read it in your books 2,000 years later. Contrast that with 2024, where there's so much information, it's literally impossible to form a single opinion. One must find a worldview and just stick to it like glue, even if it's wrong. Once you find a worldview, you can make insane lateral connections about the nature of the universe and post about it on the internet, and everyone will believe you and tweet about you. Nothing ever changes. Anyways, Cleanthes was succeeded by Chrysippus, who continues cementing the comprehensive worldview of the philosophy. It's after the death of Chrysippus that Stoicism makes its way to Rome, with Panaetus and Posidonius, who are responsible with birthing the Stoicism we know today, centering their adaptation of the philosophy on living through action of its ethics, rather than just studying the logic, physics, and theory. Stoicism now enters the late Stoa period in Rome, and we get to meet the three pivotal thinkers who truly defined the philosophy: Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius.
Have you ever lost $3,500 at an airport because a sketchy man bumped into you and skimmed your credit card through your shitty leather wallet? Well, I have. It left me destitute and yearning for meaning. But never will this happen again with extra wallets! This bitch is made of metal. Nobody will ever skim me again with NFC block technology. Extra wallets. This bitch is made of metal. You can thwack this bitch. And not only that, you can track this bitch. Extra wallet has Find My Phone integration, meaning it's impossible to lose. Reverse pickpocket it into an unsuspecting stranger, track them on your phone, and don't do anything nefarious. Or just find it easily if you forget it at the club. This bitch is made of metal, and the cards pop out when you push a button. Try that on a date and feel the sexual energy. Gift it for Christmas and get your friends laid. And also save their lower back. This guy sat in his old wallet for 20 years and now he's a broken man. Extra wallets are thin and fit discreetly into any opening. You can sit on this bitch for the rest of the time and nothing bad will happen. Money clip. All my currencies are folded neatly into the money clip. We have Canadian, American, Euros, and Honduran Limpuras. This bitch is made of metal. And you can save 55% off with code ARTCHAT until December 25th. Give it to your friends, get them laid, track them down with Find My Phone, save their backs, save 55 with code ARTCHAT, and make sure they never have to buy another wallet again. Born in Spain probably around 4 BC, Seneca is the Stoic philosopher with the largest body of work. Seneca was born very wealthy and quickly moved to Rome from Spain as a young boy. And it's here he would study philosophy from a young age. Most of his life is marked by a series of relocations that left him ill in Egypt for 10 years, before returning to Rome and being immediately banished to Corsica for an alleged affair with the emperor's wife. Upon returning to Rome, he was tasked with tutoring a young boy named Nero, who would go on to become Emperor Nero, the poster child of decadent societies and collapse, killing his own mother out of paranoia, watching 40% of Rome burn in a fire, and having Trump shooter physiognomy. But what did Seneca contribute to Stoicism as we know it today? He's most known for his book, Letters from a Stoic, a collection of 124 letters written to his friend Lucilius Jr., a man who is only known to exist through these letters. In these letters, Seneca usually opens with an observation about his day, following with a philosophical analysis or a piece of advice based on the events, in which he advocates for living simple, not getting attached to your material possessions, and not being dictated by desire.
When a gat approaches a young sigma, one mustn't goon immediately, for edging is often the best prescription for a life of skibbity restraint.
In this book, he also references yelling at his gardener for not tending to the trees in the garden of his second home correctly. So, take everything with a grain of salt. Next in the late Stoa, we have Epictetus, a man whose life could not be more different than Seneca's. Born around 55 AD in Turkey, Epictetus came to Rome as a slave. His master broke his leg as punishment when he was a teenager, and it would never heal properly, leaving him crippled for life. No direct text exists from Epictetus, and he only has 2 works to his name, both of which were dictated by one of his students. The first being Discourses, the remains of an 8-book body of work that vividly describes his ideas. The second being Enchiridion, a tiny book of his ideas distilled down to their most important points. All philosophers were banished from Rome by Emperor Domitian in 89 AD, and he spent most of his life teaching in the small Greek town of Nicopolis. Epictetus' work is characterized by the classic Stoic principles of not being dictated by your emotions and living in accordance with nature. But Epictetus believed more in community and humans as a system, rather than individual needs. Epictetus taught that man can only find himself through finding his role in the world in relationship to other people, taking on responsibility and being virtuous to those around you. Basically, don't get emotional, don't get attached, help out your community, and only through this will you find tranquility. Epictetus was community pilled as fuck. Epictetus was community pilled as fuck. Epictetus was community pilled as fuck. Finally, we have the man himself, Marcus Aurelius. His single book, Meditations, is people's first and often only foray in the Stoic philosophy. Marcus was born in 121 AD to an extremely wealthy family with close ties to the empire. And through his political ties, he was destined to become Emperor of Rome by the age of 17. As he grew up, he received an advanced education of Greece and its history, and studied philosophy after being introduced to Epictetus' Discourses. After the emperor and his adoptive father died in 161 AD, he took the throne and ruled it jointly with his brother. Marcus was known as the last of the great 5 Roman emperors. After Marcus died in 180 AD, his son Commodus took the throne. Known for being the exact fucking opposite of a Stoic, his son was a psychopath and a hedonist who died in 192 AD after being strangled to death by a champion wrestler at a gladiator match he was at for his own enjoyment. Aurelius' contribution to Stoicism would be a single book, his personal journal, that he would use to remind himself of how to rule the empire with reason and pragmatism. The journal, now referred to as Meditations, was never meant to be seen by the public, and was written entirely in Greek. The current version consists of excerpts written over the course of his life, where he reminds himself frequently about the shortness of life, rationality, accepting others' flaws, and avoiding the desire for both fame and carnal pleasure. Meditations is the single most important Stoic text that exists in our contemporary context, and provides the base for Stoic ethics that has been rewritten into countless self-help books and Sigma mindset YouTube videos. And for the black pillars, it also helps that he probably looked like this. I'm not a scholar in Stoicism, and most people who read Stoicism are not scholars either. I'm not going to engage with the logic, the physics, the natural sciences, as no one really gives a fuck about that anymore. With this in mind, let's do a little meta-analysis of the lives of the most famous Stoics. We have Zeno, a shipwrecked merchant whose entire life sank into the ocean and had to find a way to cope with starting his life over again. Seneca, an extremely wealthy man whose wealth gave him the opportunity to realize that fame and money don't equal happiness. Epictetus, a crippled slave whose life was so miserable, he had to find peace and tranquility through mind, rather than climbing the social ladder. And Marcus Aurelius, who for all intents and purposes was the most powerful man on the planet, and used Stoicism to rule effectively and unemotionally, as that's what his job requested of him. And this was all during a period of time where death lurked around every corner. In Epictetus' Enchiridion, he mentions the idea of one's son dying 7 times. 7 times in a book you can finish in like half an hour. For the average Greek and Roman, it was paramount to not have your life dictated by attachment and emotion. Their life was a never-ending tragedy, the likes of which a middle-class Zoomer could never understand. Stoicism is truly one of the greatest and most digestible philosophies ever created. There is no theory, there is only practice. You live and breathe Stoicism in your everyday life and with every interaction. You're going to be less prone to emotional suffering and subversion compared to somebody who lives their life on bug mode, clawing at any source of dopamine and pleasure, living their lives in waves of bliss and guilt, having no plans for the future. Personally, I carry a copy of Meditations on me wherever I go. It's not on me right now, but I usually do. So what's the problem? Why does Stoicism suck? How does it make you gay? How could you fuck this up? There are 2 ways to handle your problems. You can blame yourself, or you can blame the world. Blaming the world makes you a prisoner of fate. Blaming yourself sets you free. If I just blame the algorithm every time I make a video that does bad, then I'm a prisoner of circumstances. If I believe the world's out to get me, I literally have no agency over my own future. If I blame myself, I have the option to do better next time. Sure, this is much harder on one's ego, but it's much better for my future self and the future of the world. Growth of character is only possible when you start taking responsibility for your actions. So where does Stoicism come into play? Stoicism often states that you should accept your fate, and the aforementioned author's work is full of lines about this. Everything that happens as it should, and if you observe carefully, you will find this to be so. The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately. Remember that you are an actor in a drama, of such a kind as the author pleases to make it. If short, a short one. If long, a long one. If it is his pleasure you should act a poor man, a cripple, a governor, or a private person, see that you act naturally, for this is your business. To act well the character assigned to you. To choose it is another's. What the Stoics are talking about here is that life in ancient Greece sucked. There was no vertical mobility, you couldn't grind your way to the top, and you probably died at 14 of some unnamed disease. Now what happens if you take the idea of accepting one's fate and apply it literally in 2024?
You get every fucking chud on the internet.
Modern Stoicism's first flaw is that it's easy to use as cope. To apply the doctrine's most literal interpretation is to use it as an answer for all of life's suffering. Can't find the girlfriend? That's just your path in life. Got fired from your job? That was out of your control. No friends? Buddy, you're just a Sigma male, don't worry about it. This is good advice for certain aspects of life. This is good advice for a cancer patient. You're not gonna unbreak your leg. You're not gonna bring a dead parent back. You're not gonna unshave your head. Seriously, don't get a buzz cut. You're not gonna look like Tyler Durden. You're gonna look like the fucking PS2 version of Tony Soprano. Ruminating on these terrible things will only make it worse. However, if an outcome is in your control, you should fight for it with all your vril. If you don't like the fact that you have no friends, you have no job, you have no girlfriend, that your life fucking sucks, you should assess yourself and figure out how to change. There is no personal growth into just bowing to Stoicism all the time. If your answer to life's problems is retreating into Stoicism, this is the exact same as someone who retreats into video games or drugs. The only difference is, you get to pretentiously quote Marcus Aurelius when someone asks why, you're a loser. When the Stoics wrote about accepting your fate, they were talking about the chaos that surrounded them in the ancient world. The fact the infant mortality rate was like 50%. The fact the emperor could have you torn apart by lions for breaking a law you didn't know existed. It was not intended for a 20-something guy to read 2,000 years later and justify the fact that he's a fucking idiot. When it came to personal responsibility, the Stoics taught the exact opposite of coping. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not a master of himself." Fight for your future, because nobody else is gonna do it. Stoicism's most consistent and revolutionary doctrine is living in accordance with nature. Don't you see the plants, the birds, the ants and the spiders, and the bees going about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best they can? And you're not willing to do your job as a human being? Why aren't you running to do what your nature demands? To live in accordance with nature, and specifically human nature, requires a definition of what human nature is. So how did the Stoics define this? It's community. We live for each other, and we derive meaning through each other. The good of a rational creature is community. We were born for community. No matter the life you're living, if you're doing nothing to make the world a better place, you are not living in accordance with nature. Nobody gives a fuck about what you think, what you feel, what your favorite band is, how you got bullied in junior high. No one cares. They're over it. Are you helpful? Do you provide value to others? Are you getting in the way? These are the metrics at which other people judge you. This is how people determine your worth. This is why so many Stoics tell you to control your thoughts, set aside your desires and cravings for the betterment of the world. Men are disturbed, not by things, but by the views which they take of them. A man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is. Our life is what our thoughts make of it. This is simple. Sacrifice your desires for the good of others, and through this you will find value as a human and live in accordance with nature. But what if we keep the Stoicism part and throw away the community part? Stoicism is the most popular philosophy for crypto bros, amateur day traders, and gym cells. Why is this? Because when you take out the community part, it's a great way to cope, stay alone, and focus on the grind and never produce any value. You joined the real world and you want to start your own financial advice pyramid scheme so you can get filthy rich off shitcoins all while sitting alone in front of your computer. The Stoics are what you need. They'll help you lock in. Ignore your desires. Ignore your cravings. Your best friend from high school called you up and said, "Hey bro, let's get a beer tonight. A little Bud Light, a little Modelo, a little Negra Modelo, a little Olin's, a little Alexander Keith's, a little Voodoo IPA, a little Stella, a little Asahi, a little Peroni, a bag of cocaine, a 5-MeO DMT vape, research chemicals. Miller Lite." Don't worry, friend. Stoicism's got your back. Sorry, bro. I can't make it tonight. Seneca said that luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And I really think Bussy Coin is gonna take off tonight. Besides, people just get in the way, and if I want to be successful, I should just focus on myself. Only neoliberalism could co-opt a philosophy like Stoicism into being just another tool for productivity. This isn't to say one should forego the work required of them simply because it's lonely or hard. Hard work is fucking great. If you're a business owner, if you're a doctor, or if you have people relying on you in any way, then by all means, turn this video off and get your ass to work. Seriously, go. But ask yourself, why are you doing what you're doing? And is what you're doing making the world a better place? Are you producing value? And furthermore, do you think you will continue being happy, living this solace lifestyle if all of your wildest dreams come true? On the off chance that all your schemes work out, whatever they may be, will the wealth make you happy if you're still alone? Imagine in the future you find yourself in the exact same place you are right now, sitting alone in your room in front of your phone or your computer. The only difference is that the computer is nicer, the chair is nicer, the room is bigger. You got that cool off-white wet grass rug that every famous streamer has for some reason. You put your nose to the grindstone, you got your wealth, but you're in the exact same place you started, and you've changed nobody else's life in the process. You've produced no value. How quickly would you be calling up that friend for a beer? Lonelier and less socialized than ever. Stoicism doesn't teach you to be productive for no reason. Stoicism is supposed to help you find the why to your productivity. Community is the why of Stoicism, and without community, you're just a more productive fool. Have you ever heard of the paperclip machine thought experiment? Imagine a machine that's told to maximize the number of paperclips it produces. In its quest to maximize, the machine uses every provided material to make paperclips. Once it runs out, it moves on to other sources of metal. Ovens, computers, pacemakers, full metal Charizard promo cards.
What the fuck are you talking about, bro?
It will eventually destroy everything in its path with the sole goal of making as many paperclips as possible until there isn't a single piece of metal left. Now, this thought experiment is used as a way to describe how AI could eventually go awry, but it's also analogous to modern Stoicism. Stoicism is a tool to help you lead a more examined life, not a virtue in itself. The goal isn't to be stoic. The goal is to be stoic for a reason. Yet this is not how most people interface with Stoicism. One begins to see everything as an opportunity to detach. When experiencing loss, the modern Stoic will suppress the feelings. When experiencing social ostracization, the modern Stoic will not reflect. When they are loved, the modern Stoic will see the reciprocation of those emotions as weakness. Once one accepts Stoicism as the end goal, they become inhuman and psychopathic. And contrary to popular internet thought over the past decade, emotions are extremely important. Not only that, emotions are what create reality. There is no objective self at the core of your being in which you have to dig through all your emotions to find. You are your emotions. Emotions created the art we love, the architecture we love, the music we love. People prefer their rooms decorated, their coffee with sugar, their movies to make them feel something. There's a reason we don't all go home to undecorated rooms and sleep on yoga mats. There's a reason we don't walk around wearing gray jumpsuits and eating nutrient paste. It would be very stoic of us, but it would not make life worth living. And if you see all pleasure and enjoyment as a bad thing, You're the fucking weird one, not everybody else. Furthermore, if this strategy was viable, why didn't we evolve out of emotions long ago? Why do we still cry, get attached, fall in love, get heartbroken, mourn? This isn't to say that one should live their life enthralled in emotional bliss and turmoil. Sometimes you have to do the hard work. Sometimes you have to put the dog down. This doesn't mean you shouldn't be sad that the dog died. This doesn't mean you shouldn't reflect on the love you felt for the dog. It means you have to step up and do something for the greater good. There's a reason for this act, and Stoicism is a tool to achieve it. I'd prefer if my leaders, my lawyers, my surgeons got the job done and didn't get caught up in interpersonal emotional drama. The same way that Marcus Aurelius controlled himself when he ruled Rome. But when Stoicism is the goal in itself, when there is no reason, it becomes a terminal idea. A stoic machine that slowly destroys everything that makes you human. Everything that makes life worth living. A softer and less messy form of suicide. Our generation is plagued by malaise, boredom, and a lack of meaning, to the point where people openly refer to Gen Z as being in a meaning crisis. We constantly complain about nothing ever changing and nothing ever happening. Gen Z is the generation mired with dating and socialization problems. And to deal with this, we've built a bastardized quasi-philosophy to make us okay with these facts. Gen Z doesn't need less emotion, we need more. Gen Z needs to be hungry, passionate, angry. Gen Z needs to love and be loved. Gen Z needs to care about things, not deny that care as weakness. Stoicism is a great way to focus on what matters in life and throw the other things aside. But if nothing matters to you, Stoicism will just make you worse. And that's the last thing we need. Be hungry, be thirsty, get angry, love your friends, fight for your life, and never kill yourself.
I run a book club called the Status Quo Book Club. The theme of the book club is cultural literacy and philosophy, and we're currently reading The Managerial Revolution by James Burnham. If you liked this video and that sounds cool to you, you can join through my Patreon, as well as get your name in the credits and see exclusive interviews with intellectuals.